This is 6 Minutes, the seriously international daily newscast. It's Wednesday, March the 5th. I'm Anne-Sophie Goninet.
And I'm Jacob Shropshire. The sun is setting in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, while it's just coming up in Panama City. In Malaga, Spain, and here in the World Crunch newsroom in Paris, it's just after midday. These are the latest headlines. The Kremlin praises Zelensky's positive letter to Trump on Ukraine's willingness to negotiate an end to the war. Trump tells the U.S. Congress he's, quote, just getting started. And our daily quiz question comes from a lab in Texas. In our top story, Russia said today that it was taking a positive view of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's letter to U.S. President Donald Trump, stating his willingness to negotiate over the war. Quote, the question is who to sit down with, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov added, as Ukraine still has a legal ban on negotiating with Russia.
President Trump boasted in a marathon speech to the U.S. Congress on Tuesday that his efforts to slash the size of the federal workforce, reorient American foreign policy, and escalate a risky trade war marked the beginning of the, quote, most thrilling days in the history of our country. The address, which drew jeers from some Democrats who walked out in protest, was Trump's first to Congress since his second term began on January the 20th. Israel slammed a 5-year, $53 billion plan to rebuild Gaza that was adopted at an emergency Arab summit in Cairo on Tuesday, and the Trump administration said it stood by its own vision of transforming the Strip into a Riviera owned by the United States. Arab leaders reasserted that they would reject any proposals to displace Palestinians from their land.
Now, let's take a closer look at what the international press is covering.
Belgrade-based tabloid Alo led today with the dramatic photos from the first day of the spring session of Serbia's parliament after opposition lawmakers lit flares and released tear gas in the body's chamber. The protest in the legislative chamber was in support of anti-corruption demonstrations that was sparked by the collapse of a rail station last year. 2 lawmakers were injured in the chaos, including one who had a stroke and is in critical condition. And German daily Die Welt is covering plans from Germany's likely next Chancellor Friedrich Merz, released on Tuesday, which include a new €500 billion special fund to boost infrastructure and defense spending. Merz has vowed to do whatever it takes to defend Germany against threats to freedom and peace in Europe.
In Australia, the Sydney Morning Herald is covering the millions of Australians bracing for the first tropical cyclone to hit Queensland and New South Wales since 1974, as authorities are urging residents in flood-prone suburbs to evacuate soon. We have a piece from Colombian daily El Espectador calling for boycotts on American goods. Anne-Sophie, walk us through this piece.
Mauricio Restrepo writes for El Espectador that the best way to combat the Trump administration in the US, given its hostile stance toward Colombia, is to boycott US goods. He writes that Donald Trump is concocting and brazenly resorting to all kinds of aggression, including tariffs on our products, throwing our compatriots out and treating them like criminals in the process, refusing residency permits and naturalization to many foreigners who had already been granted them, and so on. It's all threats, threats, threats. There is little we ordinary Colombian citizens can do to stop this monster from hell, except for the firm decision not to buy gringo products like Coca-Cola and Fanta, McDonald's, KFC, Oreos, or M&Ms, and replace them with national products from Colombian brands.
Italian daily La Stampa reports from the front lines in Ukraine about Russia's escalation of violence after Friday's disastrous meeting between Zelensky and Trump in the Oval Office. Seeing an opportunity in the current political moment to exert more pressure and to advance further, Russian generals are taking the moment to ratchet up the intensity of attacks, including on civilians.
And from German weekly Die Zeit, we have an article translated from German about how 20,000 salmon escaped from a fish farm in Norway. The escaped salmon can breed with their wild counterparts and cause ecological issues though, so the Norwegian government put a bounty out for anyone who can catch the escapees, turning ordinary fishermen into bounty hunters.
We're closing out with a daily quiz question that comes to us from a laboratory in Texas. A Texas-based biotech company says it has created a new species of mouse. But what is special about these mice? Is it A, they're AI-powered? B, their hair looks like Donald Trump's? C, they squeak with a southern twang? Or D, they have mammoth traits? The correct answer is D. Dallas-based company Colossal Biosciences announced the creation of the woolly mice on Tuesday, which it says marks an important step toward achieving the researchers' ultimate goal, bringing a woolly mammoth-like creature back from extinction. But the announcement sparked criticism, with some experts calling the project unethical and a publicity stunt.
That's the latest from around the world. If you like this podcast, we'd really appreciate if you could help us out with a follow, share, and a 5-star rating on your preferred podcasting platform. For more of the best of the international press delivered exclusively in English, visit us at worldcrunch.com. We'll see you here tomorrow. À demain!